Hello, this is Jay Mitchell, and we are back with another episode of the Libertarian Censored podcast, going over all the posts on the Libertarian Censored subreddit. Let's get right into it. So first we have Comer cannot defend his bill attempting to defer all congressional power to Donald Trump. Rep. Stansberry again, posted by Ragnar OKXG, and that's a cross post from the Albuquerque subreddit. And yeah, I don't really care for the whole Donald Trump, uh, all the stuff to, worship him, I don't really care for Trump derangement syndrome, but Trump worship syndrome can be just as cringe, I would say, in that regard. I definitely don't think we should defer all congressional power to Trump or let him run for a third term. But, at the same time, the Democratic representative just trying to become viral on social media isn't very libertarian either. If she had her way, the Republican Party would be legal, and probably all parties but the Democratic Party would be illegal, and I don't think that's very libertarian either. And that's my thoughts on that issue. The next we have the same thing posted by the same thing as the last one. Comer can't defend his bill to real Donald Trump or Senator again. That's from Donald Key, and that's across from the Well That Sucks subreddit. And yeah, if they want to make this representative go viral and become like another AOC or Jasmine Crockett, that's fine. But I personally like Congress people that keep a lower profile rather than the ones that try and constantly hog the spotlight all the time. Whenever someone constantly talks about someone, you get tired of them very quickly. And that's how I feel about Donald Trump. That's how I feel about any of the Democratic representatives are trying to promote that Reddit tries to promote, especially AOC, since that's one in particular they can't seem to shut up about. Then we have conjecture on why the religious defend capitalism, evil corporations enlisted rich pastors to attack socialism from Spare Simeon, and they said an interesting figure, some history of the figures involved. And they linked to a YouTube video, why the right hates atheists but loves Elon Musk from Genetically Modified Skeptic, and they linked to an article from Politico, Corporate America Invented Religious Right, how Corporate America invented Christian America. And then they said, according to the theory, the robber barons and oil and steel magnates recruited Reverend James W. Feifeld to sell capitalism to the masses because the masses trust their ministers, and they linked to his Wikipedia page. Of note is the assertion that capitalists caused the Great Depression and FDR saved us from it. The videographer really loves FDR, who wrote more executive orders than any other president, and threatened the Supreme Court judge stacking if they wouldn't approve his unconstitutional directives. And I'd agree with that last part. FDR was wasn't a very good president, but I definitely do think maybe some pastors are paid off by the rich. I definitely feel like that when it comes to like the prosperity gospel pastors, like Joel Osteen. But I definitely don't think on Reddit every church is pretty much seen as a mega church. So the thing is that there are lots of other churches out there other than mega churches, and a lot of Redditors seem to think that Christianity is just all the evangelical prosperity gospel people. Well, in reality, that couldn't be further from the truth. But Reddit, they love their stereotypes, and yeah, that's just how Reddit views the world when it comes to right wing people. I could say all Redditors are fat unemployed losers who don't leave their mother's basements, but there are Redditors who are exception to that. I personally have a lot of Reddit karma myself. I would consider myself a Redditor, but I'm an exception to that. So it just goes to show you how you just can't rely on all these stereotypes, but when it comes to stuff like that, like a lot of Redditors seem to. Then we have Oops, They Did It Again, Roanoke, Virginia, and that's from FlimsyOut5563. And that's crossover from the ACAB subreddit. And yeah, I don't really care for police authoritarianism. It looks like they're trying to kneel down on this guy like they did with George Floyd. But I think at this point everyone's too burnt out for another George Floyd. So ultimately the police have the legal monopoly on the use of force, and sometimes there's nothing you can do about it. That's why I personally don't care for them. If it was up to me, in my libertarian society, people would be able to police things however they want to. libertarians, I think, should be anti-monopoly, especially when it comes to business, but especially when it comes to force, because, everyone should be able to justify whatever they feel like in the libertarian society. If you don't like it, that's your problem, and you should be able to either ignore it, or if it's that bad, defend against it. And that's my thoughts on that issue. Then we have Elon Musk's XAI buys social media platform X for $45 billion from Reuters.com, posted by CH4Locks. And yeah, I don't really care about how Elon has a new shell company for his social media platform, but that's a lot of what business is, and sometimes you just have to grin and bear it. Then we have Exif's younger brother is serving in a key role as a liaison and senior advisor inside the Pentagon from APnews.com, posted by LegioX. And yeah, I really don't care for nepotism either, but the Reddit only seems to care in this instance because it's one of the Orange Man's friends. If it was one of Biden or one of Biden's friends, they wouldn't care. It's just, as I always like to say, it's who's in the in group, who's in the out group. Then we have Elon Musk says his companies are suffering because of the work he is doing at the White House from MSN.com, posted by Don Key, that's across from the No Shit Sherlock subreddit. And yeah, if he wants to I personally think if people want to boycott Tesla or other companies because of Elon's work at the White House, they should be able to. But with that being said, I think a lot of the boycott is because the TV says Elon bad, just like how they said Trump bad, and the people boycotted his businesses. So you gotta wonder, is this organic? Is this whole movement against Elon organic? I personally think it isn't, because it's obviously Reddit used to love the guy, but then he joined the political out group, and suddenly he was the worst thing ever. So it just goes to show you how it's people have no standards, but beyond who's in the in group and who's in the out group. It's like how the progressives say, "Oh, we're the party of empathy and kindness," but then they cheer when the healthcare CEO gets shot and killed, and then when the Tesla dealership gets violently burned down. So they say they're for empathy and kindness, but they're really going to be further from the truth. It's just then the only reason they have any problem with Elon when they used to love him is because he joined the political out group. Then we have the beginning of the traffic stop and arrest of Anton Brown in Roanoke from background maybe 402, and they added, leaving your vehicle during a traffic stop is always going to get a reaction from law enforcement. I'm not arguing in favor of this practice, but an edited version of the police interaction was posted here. It leaves out the actual start of the traffic stop and is trying to push some political narrative of racial targeting. Anyone that gets out of the vehicle and tries to leave a traffic stop on foot is going to get detained while you're black. And I would agree with that. I think people are catching on to, how a lot of internet controversies and dramas are manufactured these days. That's a lot of politics these days seems to be manufactured more than anything else. And yeah, if you want to have another George Floyd, justify doing whatever you want to, but eventually, you do have to take into account the context of which it happens in. And I like that this user trying to do that. Normally Reddit says, "Oh, I won't let my context get in the way of a good narrative." But if you're a critical thinking person, you gotta have the context. We gotta put the context before the narrative. And that's my thoughts on that issue. Then we have rules for me, but not for thee, from Help with Eating, and that's crosswords from the White People Twitter subreddit, and that's a tweet from Bernie Sanders. The leader of the free world is not like freedom. He has sued ABC, CBS, Meta, and the Des Moines Register. Now he wants to decimate NPR and PBS. Mr. President, the First Amendment is not negotiable. Stop undermining the Constitution. And yeah, I really used to love Bernie a decade ago, but he's kind of grown stale, and he's shown he's just another one of a sellout like the rest of them. NPR and PBS, the government shouldn't be funding state-run media. I would say the same thing if I lived in Russia or China. But when it comes to America, suddenly that's good. And when it comes to ABC, CBS, Meta, and the Des Moines Register, just because media is a big name doesn't mean it shouldn't be able to be held accountable. I personally am against the lawsuit in the courts entirely from a libertarian perspective, because I think people should be settling their disputes by themselves instead of having the court system do it. But regardless, it just goes to show you how someone like Bernie markets himself as the resistance and the fight oligarchy toward, but here he is defending ABC, CBS, and Meta, three very big businesses, because the Orange Man sued them, and so that puts them on his side. And that just goes to show you, you gotta have principles. You gotta say, I don't, Bernie says, oh, I hate billionaires, but then he defends, he says, oh, now that the Orange Man's suing ABC, CBS, and Meta, the First Amendment's not negotiable. And that just goes to show you how, they're all just, everyone's kind of a phony in some aspect, but, politicians seem to be some of the leaders of the pack in that regard. And yeah, ABC, CBS, Meta, they were biased against him and pretty much gave the 2016 primary to Hillary, but Bernie doesn't care because he just seems to have become like Reddit, all just saying Orange Man bad all the time and having no other values beside that. Then we have what could possibly go wrong. Doge to rapidly rebuild Social Security code base. Ars Technica from ArsTechnica.com, posted by Baton 13. They said the so-called Department of Government Efficiency, Doge, is starting to put together a team to migrate the Social Security Administration's SSA computer systems entirely off one of its oldest programming languages in a matter of months, potentially putting the integrity of the system and the benefits of which tens of millions of Americans rely at risk. The project is being organized by Elon Musk, Lieutenant Steve Davis, multiple sources who were not given permission to talk to the media will tell Wired, and aims to migrate all SSA systems off of COBOL, one of the first common business-oriented programming languages, and onto a more modern replacement like Java in a scheduled tight time frame of a few months. Under any circumstances, a migration of this size and scale will be a massive undertaking, as experts tell Wired, but the expedited deadline runs the risk of obstructing payments to more than 65 million people in the U.S. currently receiving Social Security benefits. And yeah, this is another Tesla man bad post. But at some point, you do have to move the old programming language into the new stuff. So you just can't sit around forever. And there could be a chance for error, and it could affect people's Social Security payments. That's why the Libertarian position is, Social Security is a Ponzi scheme. We shouldn't have, because if the private individual run it, would be a Ponzi scheme. If the government doesn't, it's completely fine. So, if, I do think, if they wanted to send it to a new system, that's fine. But, you do have to do it at some point, and Reddit will just criticize Elon even if the transfer goes flawlessly. So at some point, you might have to take some risks when it comes to stuff like that. And Elon seems like he's the type who likes to take risks. So Reddit's gonna shit talk him regardless of what he does. So I personally think this is a good idea. But I would definitely not try and take it too fast. But the people will justify what they justify. So that's my thoughts there. And we have Trump says military force not off the table for Greenland after Danish FM scolds his administration from APnews.com, posted by Paton 13, and they added, real question here, can the president unilaterally start an invasion take over a non-aggressor territory? I know that Congress has called a lot of war-making powers to the president since World War II, ceded a lot of war-making powers to the president since World War II, but it seems clearly over the line, if that means anything in this day. And I would agree with that. Personally, I thought Trump's second term would be more like his first term, would be better from the foreign policy perspective, worse from the domestic perspective. But this term, it seems to be better from the domestic perspective, worse from the foreign policy perspective. He's got to get off that autistic hyperfixation on Greenland, I would say, because that's just costing him. He says in public he markets himself as very much the U.S. shouldn't police the world type, but then he says, oh, we gotta invade Greenland, Canada, and Panama, and then bomb Yemen. So you market yourself as being an isolationist type, but then you start saying we need to invade Greenland or bomb Yemen, and it just goes to show you how politicians are a lot of times can be phonies when it comes to how they market themselves. And yeah, hopefully he drops the fixation on Greenland soon. But, I don't know if anything will really come of it. We tried to push it during his first term as well, nothing came of it. So let's see if anything comes of it this time. Then we have health insurance CEO fired after admitting to hiring private investigators to dig up dirt from News4SanAntonio.com, posted by Ninja Lover, and they said Mark Sanders, CEO of Superior Health Plan, was dismissed from his position following revelations that his company has hired private investigators to gather personal information on customers, journalists, and even lawmakers. And yeah, I personally don't think that's a fireable offense. I think people should be able to use whatever resources they want. But if they want to fire him, ultimately people will justify whatever they justify, and that's my thoughts on that issue. Then we have Seattle City Council resolution will acknowledge failure of defund movement from CapitolHillSeattle.com, posted by Color Monochrome. And yeah, Reddit's of course not going to like that since they love all the defund the police stuff. I personally don't think we should fund the police either, but it seems like 2020, was a lifetime ago when everyone was wanting to be progressive in light of George Floyd and the COVID pandemic. But now that seems to have come and gone, and people I think are kind of returning to their senses. Maybe a little too far in the other direction with all the Trump bullshit. But yeah, that's my thoughts on that issue. Then we have alarm as Florida Republicans move to fill deported workers' jobs with children. It's insane, right? From TheGuardian.com, posted by Baton 13. They added the children yearn for the farms. And yeah, personally, I don't think I think someone does have to work. I think if children want to volunteer to pick crops, they should be able to. But someone does have to pick the crops. But I think most of it's automated these days. So I think this is just more Reddit rage bait, if anything else. If not, if Reddit's pretty much all just entirely rage bait at this point. So yeah, we'll see. I guess we'll have to see how that plays out. And we have this needs to be seen by everyone. This is not okay from Donald Keene. That scroll was from the Pennsylvania subreddit, and that's looks like a Facebook post from Josh Shapiro, the governor of Pennsylvania. Earlier this month, the federal government told us they were canceling our contract to pay Pennsylvania farmers to supply our food banks with fresh food. They told us the initiative no longer aligns with agency priorities of the U.S. Department of Agriculture. It's hard for me to see how partnering with our farmers and feeding people wouldn't align with their priorities. And yeah, I personally don't think the government should be controlling food supplies, but if I guess you have a libertarian argument for honoring contracts as well, but I personally don't think the government should be in control of the food supply, so I personally think that's a good thing. But ultimately, Reddit's deeply ideologically captured by the Democrats, so they'll believe anything Josh Shapiro says, even if they say, oh, we're pro-Palestine, yet Shapiro was an IDF volunteer. So it just goes to show you, they're Reddit, they'll try and say, oh, we're progressives, but they'll fall in line with whatever the DNC says to. It's like it's like in 2016, when they said, oh, we need Bernie, and a lot of other places started going Bernie or bust, but Reddit became pretty much pro Hillary overnight when she got the Democratic nomination. And that's just to show you, the Democratic Party could nominate literally anyone or anything, and Reddit would be for it. It could nominate a stick, the shit I took yesterday, Adolf Hitler. It could nominate anything, and Reddit would be for it. So, it just goes to show you, Reddit doesn't really have any values other than Orange Man bad, whatever the Democrats say good. And then the only criticism they'll have of the Democrats is they're not progressive enough. They'll never have any other criticism other than that, it seems. Then we have Elon Musk. Any federal judge can stop any action by the president, of the United States. This is insane. This has got to stop. It's got to stop at the federal level, at the state level, from Donald Keene. That's crossed from the law subreddit. And yeah, ultimately, I do think the U.S. has checks and balances, but just goes to show you how a lot of people don't really care for that. And yeah, I personally don't really care for the courts, but I don't really care for the executive overreach either. So I think the libertarian option is people will justify if the government branches want to infight amongst themselves. That's their problem, not our problem. And that's my thoughts on that issue. Then we have Elon Musk hands out $1 million payments after Wisconsin Supreme Court declines request to stop him, from APnews.com, posted by Donald Key, and that's cross was from the law subreddit. And yeah, I personally think if you want to pay people to vote for your candidate, I think that the libertarian position is you should be able to do that, because that's the free market. Personally, I don't think there should be any forced collectivism at all, but if there is forced collectivism, people should be able to spend their money however they feel like. So if Elon Musk wants to pretty much pay people to vote for his candidates, he should be able to do so. That's the free market. Pay people for whatever you want, to do whatever you want. And that's my thoughts on that issue. And I think we're gonna wrap it up there. I'll see you guys in the next episode. Bye.